what is an invasive plant? So really there's like a few different categories that people tend to think of plants. There's like native plants. Those are ones that have evolved in this ecosystem, and they've co-evolved with all of our wildlife, insects, birds, mammals. And so they rely on these native plants for food, for habitat. And then you've got invasive plants, which are exotic. So they come from, most of the invasive plants we have here come from either Asia, kind of like temperate Asia, like China, Japan, a similar ecosystem in terms of temperatures, but a different set of plants. And oftentimes you actually find like kind of cousin plants. So like we've got maples, they've got maples, we've got oaks, they've got oaks. So it's kind of like they're related. And so all the invasive plants that we have here, they share a few things in common. They're exotic, so they don't come from this ecosystem. And then there's like a technical term. They have to fall into one of three categories. They either cause environmental harm, they cause economic harm, or they cause harm to human health. So we have a lot of exotic plants. For example, cherry blossom. But cherry blossom is not an invasive plant, even though it is exotic. It comes from Asia because it doesn't have environmental harm to the economy or harm to human health. That's kind of like big picture, kind of what is an invasive plant, what is a native plant. All of our invasive plants have a very different history for how they got here, because then this sort of begs the question, how did these plants get to this environment? So some of them have been willfully brought in. There was a period of world history with, especially like in Europe, of trying to kind of like bring exotic species as like cultivars for gardens. And so sometimes we have unknowingly introduced plants because we like the aesthetic value, and then they have taken over whole ecosystems and outcompeted native plants. There's a plant in here called Japanese barberry that is a host plant to ticks that carry Lyme disease and other kinds of diseases. So that's a reason that it falls into that category of its spread of issues that cause human health. As well as there's a huge, enormous amount of money that we spend globally and nationally to manage invasive plants for, sometimes they cause issues with infrastructure for houses and different things like that. We have some species that have been brought over by the Forest Service that have tried to fulfill like erosion issues. And so there's not really like, it's not like a malicious intent. It's just, they all have their own story. They've all come here, and then they all have these kinds of harms to the economy, to human health, or to the environment.